In the previous video, we explored how to set up margins and guides for a magazine layout in Affinity Publisher. In this second part, we will focus on creating a custom paragraph style for the body text. Now, this includes defining the font family, adjusting the leading value, and setting up hyphenation and justification options. All of these refinements will be made through the Text Styles panel, ensuring the body text remains both readable and visually balanced for a professional magazine design. Hi everyone, I am your instructor, Elias Sarantopoulos, and welcome to the second part, setting up a magazine layout inside Affinity Publisher. Up next. Now that we have the layout and the baseline grid all set up, it's time to determine the settings for the body text, including the font family, the leading value, hyphenation, and justification. But before diving into that, certain things need to be set up. Previously, we were working inside the master page. Now it's time to move to the pages. So I'll go ahead and double click on pages 2 and 3. And as you can see now, we need to apply the master A to these two pages. I'll right click, apply master, master A, and then click OK. All right. Now from the toolbar, I grab the frame text tool and then click and drag to create a text frame. I'll release that. And under the text menu, I will insert filler text. By default, filler text does not behave as plain text. You see, this is not editable text. So to convert that to plain text, I double click to get into the whole text frame and then right click to expand field. And now I can just edit the text. But you see, this is not an intuitive approach. So I'll remove that. And inside the settings panel, under the general tab, I'll scroll down a bit and under the text category for insert filler text as text, I'll go ahead and enable that and then click to close. Back on the toolbar, I grab the frame text tool and then click and drag to create a text frame. Release that and insert filler text. All right, as you can see, this is now editable text. Okay, since we're going to be working with a lot of text, it's a good idea to have multi-paragraph columns appear on the spread for testing purposes. So under the window menu, text, I'll bring up the text frame panel. And here, for example, I would like to have 2 columns of text, and I'll set the gutter, and that correlates to the size of the body text leading value, which we set that previously to 13 points, and then press enter return. I'll close that up, and since we're going to be creating a custom text style, under the window menu, text, I'll bring up the text styles panel. This is the standard when you first bring up the text styles panel. And here we have an entire range of styles that you may or you may not use. Since I will be creating a custom magazine layout with my custom styles, there is no need for this clutter of text styles coming from Affinity Canva. So from the drop-down menu, I'll go ahead and select detach and delete all styles. But here we need to be mindful. You see, this command is going to remove all text styles from Affinity Canva. But once again, since I'm going to be creating my custom layout, I'll go ahead and detach and delete all styles. Now, in the event that you want to bring this back to the default state inside Affinity Canva, after the deletion is to bring up the settings panel, and inside the miscellaneous tab for reset text styles, go ahead, reset, click yes, click OK, and then click to close. Next time you restart Affinity Canva, the default styles will appear back on the Styles panel. Now that we have no styles coming from Affinity Canva, it's time to create our first custom style, our first paragraph style. So at the very bottom of the text styles panel, right here we'll click on the icon to create a new paragraph style. For the style, I'll make sure that I reset everything because I want to start from the very beginning. I'll give it a name of body text. This is not going to be based on anything, so I'll go ahead and move into the character. Here I've made a design decision that is to use a specific font family, and that is the Indent Pro. Indent Pro is a free font from Google Fonts. It's an organic slab serif font designed by Huerta Tipográfica. So under the font family, I'll choose Indent Pro, font style, regular, and font size set to 11 points. Then I'll jump into the paragraph. The alignment will be set to left, letting value exactly set to 13 points. And I'm also going to make sure that I align everything to the baseline grids and then click OK. I double click to get into the paragraph. I will select everything and then apply the body text paragraph style. And since I would like to have more filler text for testing purposes, under the text menu, I will insert more of that. Moving forward, refining our body text. First, I'll go ahead and zoom in a bit to be able to see some changes. And double click to get into the body text paragraph style. And I'll talk about the hyphenation. Hyphenation is used to divide words between two lines of text and controls how many letters occur before or after a hyphen. First, I will enable use auto hyphenation, and that allows the software to automatically find the right places to break a word using a linguistic dictionary. For the minimum score, that sets the threshold for which hyphenation points are allowed. So I'll set mine to a higher score for less frequent hyphenation. I'm going to set mine to 7. For the minimum word length, that is the total number of letters a word must have before it's allowed to break. So I want to have words with at least 6 characters to be considered for hyphenation. For the maximum consecutive hyphens, that controls how many consecutive lines in a paragraph are allowed to end with a hyphenated word. I want to have 1 consecutive hyphen so the line can end with a hyphen, but the next line cannot. So I'll set this to 1 and then move into the hyphenation zone. That's the amount of space to leave between the last words and the right margin in a single line. The only number that matters here is the font size. So the rule of thumb for setting the left aligned text is to set it between 1.5 to 2 times the size of the body text. So I'll set mine to 20 points. For the capital zone, no need to have any hyphens where words are all in capitals. So I'll go ahead and leave this as no change. For the paragraph end zone, since our paragraph is left aligned, this setting has no effect and it does not need to be adjusted. It only affects the last line of a paragraph in justified text. Moving forward from the hyphenation, let's talk about the justification which determines where space is added between words and letters in a paragraph. Beginning with the word spacing. Word spacing is the amount of empty space that separates one word from the next in a line of text. So for the minimum word spacing, I'll set this one to 85%. This means we can shrink the space between words up to 15%, from 100% down to 85%. For the maximum word spacing, I'll set this one to 125%. This means we can expand the space between words up to 25%. As for the desire, I'll set this one to 100% because we're going to use the font's natural space. We don't want to stretch the gaps between words. We don't want to squeeze them. We're just going to keep them exactly as the font designer intended. For the letter spacing, that works by adjusting the space between every single character. Well, the consensus here is to trust the font designer that has already set the spacing to be visual perfect. For this reason, I will leave everything as is, as no change, and then click OK. This is a personal preference and what suits the Indent Pro typeface. When these settings are applied to a large amount of reading text, that can have a big impact. There are a couple of paragraph rules that I would like to talk about, which involves the extra space between paragraphs and the start of a new one. First, under the text menu, I will enable Show Special Characters, and as you can see throughout the text frame, we have one single paragraph break after each paragraph, which is correct. What is not correct is the extra space that comes after each paragraph. And that comes from the body text paragraph style. So I double click to get into the paragraph style, and under the spacing and the space after, I will zero this out and then click OK. Now that we have no space between paragraphs, how can we tell the start of a new one? Well, this is all about indenting the first line of each paragraph. So back on the body text paragraph style and the first line indent, we're going to set that the same value as the body text size, so the indent is proportional to the size of the text itself. And we had set ours to 11 points, and then I click OK. But there's an exception to the rule, and that is the indent should be omitted at the start of a new paragraph, as we have here, or when the body text follows a subhead. That means we need to create a variant of the body text style. I'll right click to duplicate that. I'll give it a name of no indent, and I will zero out the first line indent and then click OK. So here is the start of a new paragraph. I double click to get into the paragraph and then apply the no indent paragraph rule.